Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy
Happy,
Thanksgiving to you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving, Canada, but especially Caslow.
Thanks, Mom. So, there you guys are down in the USA, and today, of course, is American Thanksgiving. So, I just thought it would be fun to reach out and have a little chat. I mean, especially since we can't really, well, not really, we definitely can't get together physically. So, why not celebrate American Thanksgiving right here on Radio Free Caslow, right?
Right.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay,
And
so let's set the stage. So let's talk a little bit about Thanksgiving in general for some of our Canadian listeners who, sort of think they know what American Thanksgiving is all about, because of course our Thanksgiving is extremely similar. Mom, fill us in on, for example, what Thanksgivings were like for you when you were a little girl out there on the bald-assed plains of Kansas.
uh, it was even more exciting at that time than Christmas was for me. We always gathered at my grandparents' home, and I had probably, 40 people there, and aunts, uncles, cousins. It was wonderful. And then we had our big Thanksgiving dinner. And in the afternoon, uh, the high school football game was on, and which was right behind my grandparents' home. And so
Now,
that was, it's a little bit like it's gone on in our family for a long time, but it's just not as many people anymore. And up to now, right now, there's hardly any people.
yeah, okay. So just so our listeners know, you're talking about being a little girl in Smith Center, Kansas, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Small town, the geographical center of the contiguous 48 states, if I'm not mistaken.
It was, yes.
Do you remember the name of the high school football team's mascot?
The Redmen.
The Redmen. Uh-oh, that's that's not good anymore, Mom.
Uh-oh.
No.
Uh-oh.
Did I mention to you that I am honored to be speaking to you from the unceded territories of the Tanaka, Okanagan, and Sentinel First Nations? So,
Well,
so
all right.
Sue and Merle, you're slightly younger than Mom, obviously. So,
Uh,
so what do you remember about Thanksgivings? Sue, let's start with you.
all right.
When
I
you were a
remember
kid.
getting together with uncles and aunts and cousins and being one chaotic, exciting bunch of people together, laughing, eating, playing games, telling stories, singing. I just remember really a lot of fun.
Yeah, Merle, would you
And to,
support that
to,
memory?
to piggyback on that, I remember having 28 guests at 4 long tables in our house on Valley View, all the cousins and the aunts and uncles having this huge Thanksgiving feast. Perhaps 2 turkeys being prepared that year, or even a turkey and ham, and the excitement of everyone uh, being together, and then the postprandial sleepiness with Uncle Wayne drifting off to sleep somewhere in the chair, and Burdette looking at football. It was just a time of fellowship and uh, friends and family around a table, enjoying each other's company.
Right on, and lots of cousins too, right? Sue, I think you'll agree with me that we had a pretty cool tight pack of cousins that came together in a pretty lively way, usually at Thanksgivings, right?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
So, Mom, if you
Yeah.
had to trot out one memory from Thanksgiving, whether it was when you were a little girl or later on when you were a mom or grandmom, what would it be?
Well, just off the top of my head, the first one that comes to mind is in Eugene. And at that time, you were at the University of Oregon.
Go
And
Ducks.
our kids were all home. And we'd have quite a few foreign students who you would meet maybe once and say, well, come on over. And then they were there for their full year or however long.
Sorry about
And-
that, Mom.
Oh, I loved it. And I remember we had so many one time that I had to get sawhorses. And we had to, along with our dining table, we had to put plywood over those sawhorses in order to have everyone sit down at the table. And no one knew the difference through the whole thing. And then another time was when we drove to Portland, and we were going to Thanksgiving in Portland at my brother's. And we invited too many foreign students, so we had to, our car, and when we had to rent a couple of cars. And we had a flat tire going up there.
Of course we did.
And somehow it was funny the whole time, nothing big, but it was good.
I think that incident led to the well-known joke, how many Norwegians does it take to change a tire, right?
And Englishmen
Yeah, right.
and Danes.
Sue, how about you? Any particular memory, Thanksgiving memory that stands out?
Growing up, I just really enjoyed the family in Mass, the cousins and the uncles and aunts. It was just a great time. But I would think something that stands out is when Merle and I were married and had kids. And that opened up a whole different celebration when you have kids. And so I guess twofold blessing. One, that I've been extremely fortunate and blessed to have such a big extended family to celebrate with. And then also blessed to have a family of my own to keep on the traditions.
Right on. Cool. Well, my memory, or one of the memories that pops into my head, goes back to those days when we were kids. I think we were probably like 10, 11, 12, something like that. And we were at Uncle Wayne and Aunt Mimi's place in Portland for that Thanksgiving. And so one of the exciting things that was going to happen at that Thanksgiving was that instead of going to a movie, which I don't know if you remember, maybe you were just a little too young to tag along, Sue, I'm not sure, but it was pretty common on Thanksgivings for the older cousins anyway to get to go to a movie after the dinner. But this particular Thanksgiving, there was to be no movie. Instead, drum roll please, we were going to get to go to Lloyd's Center.
Oh, I got to tag along.
I believe at the time it was the world's biggest shopping mall.
Yeah.
And Lloyd Center was like the epicenter of coolness because in the center of the mall there was what, Sue?
An ice skating rink.
That's right, my friend, an ice skating rink. So off we trooped, uncles, my dad, and I remember
I got to be an observer.
You got to be an observer. So the main instigators of the anecdote I'm about to share were my cousin Ron and me. So Ron is my Uncle Wayne's son. And so on the ice were Uncle Wayne, Uncle Burdette, so Mom's two brothers from Kansas, my dad, Garfield, my cousin Ron, and me. And off we went. And of course, the three old guys coming from, well, two of them from Kansas, where it can get pretty cold and ponds can freeze. And so it's not that unusual that young men and women know how to ice skate. And then my dad, Garfield, born and raised in northern Minnesota, where he gave us to understand ice was invented and therefore skating was too. So they were all prepared to show off. And frankly, they were a little wobbly on the old skates. And so Ron and I, although we weren't that practiced, we were young and fit and we quickly got the hang of it. And we started skating circles around these old guys as they wobbled around the ice with the Wurlitzer organ music playing in the background. And then we started like pulling at them and pushing them to the extent that they got, well, pissed off and started chasing us. I mean, angrily chasing us, not, hey, let's have some fun, chasing us around the rink. Uncle Wayne, with his ubiquitous wooden toothpick in his mouth,
Oh, I wish you hadn't
and,
said that.
and the ice rink marshal finally skated over, broke things up, and threw Uncle Wayne off for skating dangerously with a toothpick in his mouth. Yeah, so that's
And also they were bent over like they were roller derby queens or something.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was.
Oh my gosh.
You really had to be there to appreciate it, but yeah, it was pretty cool. So listeners, you get the idea, right? American Thanksgiving, just like Canadian Thanksgiving, for those lucky enough to have one, and I'm talking about families now, and to be on speaking terms with said families, and to be able to actually physically come together. That's the essence of a typical traditional American Thanksgiving, which brings us to Thanksgiving 2020, which is a bit different, right? So, Sue, describe what Thanksgiving for you guys is like this year and why.
Okay, well, it's just going to be our little bubble, which right now is Merle, myself, Christine, our daughter, and her family, which comprised of 2 little toddlers and her husband, which unfortunately has to work today. But throughout this whole pandemic, we've been together in our own little bubble, and
Right.
stayed that way, and really stayed away from other people, because both Christine and myself do cooking for Mom. And so we're the ones Mom sees, and we want to protect her at all costs.
Right. Now, you guys
Yeah.
live some distance from Mom, right? It's what, a
About
15,
20
minute
minutes.
drive? Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. And so this Thanksgiving, we're cooking, doing the usual, dressing and side dishes and turkey, but we're doing a little separate meal of the same thing, which after this will be taking over to Mom. So she has, a nice Thanksgiving meal. And then I believe Mark is also bringing her over a turkey dinner. So I think she'll do real fine. So it's going to be different in the sense that we're not going to have as many people, but thankful just the same that we're able to have it.
So yeah, that's fantastic. And Mom, I hope that the fact that Sue, Merle, and their kids are being so kind to you, you don't let that mask the fact that I'm still your favorite kid.
Oh, I know. And I just, I think I had that same question asked of your brother just yesterday. And I said yes to him. And I say yes to you too.
Yeah, Steve and I share that concern. It's an ongoing concern.
Well,
And
I am the
Sue-
favorite daughter.
Sue,
Well,
you
that's
are
true.
my
That's
favorite.
a good point.
Yes.
That's a valid point.
Merle, you too, Merle.
So
I'm the
Merle,
favorite son-in-law.
Merle,
That's okay.
I've heard Sue take all the credit for all this cooking, but I know you well enough to know that you've got your nose shoved into the old kitchen as well, right? So
Oh,
what do
he's
you
doing the important stuff.
like? What,
Yeah.
Merle?
I'm in charge of turkey, gravy, and dressing.
Oh my God, that's it. That's everything. Everything else is just an afterthought.
Hey, I made challah bread
And
Oh, and
pumpkin
you-
pie.
and pumpkin pie
And pumpkin pie, okay.
and a
yeah.
vegetable dish, broccoli
Nice.
casserole.
Nice. Well, I can tell you that today, it's Friday as people are listening to this, even though this is being recorded on Thursday, American Thanksgiving. So today, Friday, I'm going to put together a little Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving meal for Janet and me. Janet, those of you listening who don't know her, won't know that Janet is also from the great state of Kansas, where Mom is from as well. So we're both expat Americans. And so we're going to have a little Thanksgiving dinner this evening as I turn on at 4:30 p.m. what used
Yeah.
to be called the Civil War. That's right. I think it's the 127th meeting on the gridiron between the University of Oregon Ducks and the disgusting Oregon State University Beavers. So that's how we're celebrating. But listen, enough about Thanksgiving. Let's just take the few minutes that we have remaining, guys, and talk about more general sorts of things. We've referenced COVID and its impact on Thanksgiving. What's the scene like there in Portland when it comes to people paying attention to CDC guidelines and what Dr. Fauci has to say, et cetera? Are most people paying attention, or do you have a lot of naysayers down there?
I'll have Merle field this one.
Remarkably, more than 80% of people on the streets wear masks now, which is improvement. There is still perhaps a third of Americans that are going to ignore all of the recommendations and have big Thanksgiving celebrations. Sort of a last Thanksgiving for many of them, and which is very, very sad. But the people are starting to catch on a little bit. But I'm afraid that here in the United States, people have not taken it serious, and we're reaping the consequences of it. This last week, we've been averaging over 1,500 cases a day.
Yeah, I've been following that. It's pretty sobering. And speaking of sobering, I was just yesterday watching two markedly different messages on that situation in the US, one from President-elect Biden, the other from President Trump. The latter didn't even mention the pandemic, and the other, the antithesis, reached out to people and urged them to behave sensibly and to protect one another. So that brings me to the election. Leading up to the election, the whole world couldn't help but pay attention to what was going on in downtown Portland. Now, I know you guys don't live, neither you, Mom, nor you, Sue and Merle, in downtown Portland. But what's the scene like down there now, in the wake of the now completed election? Have things changed at all? What's the political landscape like in Portland, Oregon these days?
Can I take that question, Randy?
Fire away, Mom.
Sue and Merle came over one day and we went for a ride, and I hadn't been out in the city at all for a long time. And we went for a ride through the downtown part, and I was appalled. It didn't look like old Portland at all. Hardly any traffic. Everyone had face masks on, good for them at the time. But all the businesses, I mean, you'd look right and left, were boarded over, whether they were open or not open. And it just left me with such a deserted feeling, because I'm in my little bubble here, being blessed with my family helping me out all the time. But when I get out in this world, just a few miles away, it's a whole different story. We drove from Portland city center to Lake Oswego, which is not very far. It was like opening a door to, as you say, nirvana, because it hadn't reached that depth out there. But it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So do you guys see any prospect for change now, looking forward to the new year with the new presidential administration? I know there's still issues about Congress and all of that, but what do you think? Are you optimistic about 2021? Do you think it's likely to be a better year than 2020 or not?
Well, I think Winston Churchill, as often was right. He is famously quoted as saying, Americans always come to the right decision after they've tried all the wrong ones. And certainly I look forward to a federal government run by men of good character, and that should make a huge difference in all facets of life. As for the downtown Portland, it's heartbreaking to see that most of the businesses are closed. Most of the many buildings are boarded up with plywood. There's graffiti everywhere. There's homeless people living on sidewalks, and it looks more like a ghost town.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, of course, and what you meant to say a moment ago, Merle, was men and women of goodwill, obviously. I give you Vice President Harris as
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
example number one. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
you can edit that out along with Civil
No.
War. Use that word anymore.
No, this is live radio, man. It's going out unedited. This is Kootenai Co-op Radio, the People's Radio, unvarnished, and no fake news here. So just to wrap things up, and it kind of brings us back to the main reason for us chatting today, which is American Thanksgiving. Your reference, Merle, to homeless people on the sidewalks, and we see video clips now from cities all across America with traffic jams going back for miles of people lining up not to get COVID tests, but to get food. Do you think that this staggering sort of gap between the haves and have-nots in America is going to start being addressed in the next few years looking forward? Or do you think that's just an intractable program? We only have a minute, but what are your thoughts on that?
I'm hopeful that with the proper leadership that things will get better.
Sue, what do you think?
I think there's promise and hope just based on the election. I think Biden's going to build kind of a bridge to hope, and it'll be up to somebody else in the next 4 years to carry it on. But I think it's a good start. It's a good start.
Okay, Mom, what do you think?
I agree. It's a good start. And I think it's going to take a while to get people's trust, period, in the government.
Okay. Well, all right. On that note, I want to thank my mom, AKA Charlotte Morse, my brother-in-law, AKA Merle Williamson, and my beloved, delightful sister, Sue Williamson, for joining me on today's show. And Mom, you're the senior member of this call, and so you get to select a little music to take us out on. So you were mentioning to me the other day that there's a Croatian cellist you're really fond of. What do you think? Something by him?
Absolutely. I will always love you.
I will always love you. Okay, and that's Stepan Hauser, and I believe that particular song he's accompanied by the beautiful voice of a woman named Bernadetta Carretta. So Here we go. I will always love you. And you know what? What an appropriate title. You guys, I will always love you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Love you too.
Love you, all of you. Bye.
Okay, that's fantastic. Way to go.
Are we off now?